Have you ever wondered what your favorite Cavs players are really like? Today, I've got Spin Davies here to take us into the locker room to see if the vibes are really as high as they seem and how high I've been trying to tell you that they are from afar. We're going to learn about a bunch of the players' personalities and we're going to make him play some silly games, and it's going to be fun, at least for me, and hopefully for him and you too. Hi, I'm Zach, and welcome to the Sports Ethos Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, your safe space to celebrate and nerd out about the Cavs. And when I say nerd out, you know what I'm talking about. We're talking hoops, backed by stats you've actually heard of. To join the discussion, use hashtag CavsCast on social media. I'm super stoked for today. If you've listened to the show when I've given out weekly awards, you've often heard to me refer to these different moments in interview clips and things like that from behind the scenes when I've given out quote of the week, vibe of the week, laugh of the week. Just so you know, a lot of times I'm pulling that directly from a video posted by Spin. And he does a really great job of giving us a glimpse as to what it's like in the locker room. He also hosts a podcast called Courtside with Cavs on SI, not to mention his work writing about the NBA as a whole. It's Spin Davies. What's going on, dude? Thank you for doing this.
Thanks so much, Zach. I truly appreciate you consuming my work and passing it on to everybody, including your listeners and your followers. It's very, very humbling, and I really appreciate the support, man.
Absolutely. Quick, what is one word you would use to describe Donovan Mitchell's personality?
Donovan Mitchell. Habits. It's the only word he uses when he makes answers. Continuing to build habits. I feel like it's in every single interview. And no matter how many times you talk about how good the Cavs are, he's like, that's great, but it's not April, June, May, whatever it is. And he says habits. But honestly, no, I think the best word to describe him, I would say, is focused. He and the team and the team takes after him in that way. And his leadership has just kind of trickled on and made leaders out of everybody else too. I mean, that includes on the floor, off the floor. You look at guys like Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, who have really picked up in that sense too. So, yeah, I would say focused would be the best there.
Feel like that's a good word. I don't know Donovan Mitchell, but I feel like that's a good word. And we're going to keep Spin on his toes pretty much this whole episode with just randomly shouting that out from time to time about different players. So yeah, that's going to be fun, I hope. So you do a ton of stuff, but the first one that I did want to spend a little bit of time on and bring up is your interview edits. You clearly developed your own style in the way that you capture moments from interviews with different players and coaches, and then you have them, you find them on the same topic, and then you bring them together in almost like a montage style that tells a bigger story. You are the only person that I have seen do it like that. Where did that come from?
I just think it's trying to adapt to the new media landscape. I'm someone who came into this business writing features. I started doing them on foxsportsohio.com when I was interning under Sam Amico. I kind of found my way into minor league baseball with the Akron Beacon Journal and did a lot of those kind of long form features, wrote a bunch for the paper. Some of the guys that you might know nowadays in baseball, like Francisco Lindor and Jose Ramirez and Tyler Naquin, like these guys that were, in their minor league time when I was kind of a minor league writer in the sense of what I was covering, but also in my development and in covering sports in general. So I feel like that was my niche, and it's continued to be my niche. I still love to write. I love to take people behind the curtain, and I love to get the personal side as well as the on-court, on-field side, and kind of mix the two together to make something really nice. And I'm sure that we'll get into the stuff I do outside of the Cavs. But with Cleveland particularly, in the last, I want to say, year and a half or so, I've really tried to do a better job of showing you instead of making you click a link and read about it. I'm trying to take advantage of a platform that's allowing me to upload videos that are 4 to 5 minutes and get more of kind of a long form feature video style. And that was kind of my idea when I was doing this. I know that a lot of people's attention spans are gone now. This is 2025. everything has to be in snippets of 30 to 90 seconds in order to get any kind of leeway or run on that site. But there are still the select few that are like me who enjoy to kind of sit back and watch and listen, truly listen to how topics are being discussed by multiple people and showing multiple different perspectives. And I think there is absolutely an audience for that. And that's what I'm trying to aim for. That's who I'm looking for as a target audience. And hopefully, as I continue to do it, it just gets stronger and stronger. Sometimes the clips don't go as well as you'd think. Like, I think the smartest stuff that I post sometimes gets maybe like 2 retweets and 10 likes, but that's not really what defines success for me. I'm saying as long as I'm delivering the proper message, I'm not a buzzy guy, I'm not a hot topic, hot take guy. I try to find different angles that aren't covered and ask those questions in certain instances to try and really get those answers in depth more than just, oh, what did you think of this guy? Oh, how did you come back in the third quarter? I'm trying to kind of get more in depth than that, try to get a little bit more introspective with these guys. And I think they've understood what I'm there for. And I think that they're starting to understand that I'm there to actually try and help out and I'm trying to spread a positive message too.
Yeah, that was something I was going to get, but first, I'm going to give the plug for you. If you're not already, follow at Spin Davies. Do that if you're a Cavs fan. If you're not already, because if you're not already, I don't know where you've been. Um, Quick, Jarrett Allen in one word.
Ethical.
That's the correct answer.
If I had a 1B, I would just say authentic. This is somebody who you can tell doesn't have any sort of canned answer for his type of personality. He will laugh at an answer, he'll be honest in an answer, he'll really just be himself. And I mean, he's probably the most unique personality on the team because he's just so involved in like technology. He loves reading books. He nerds out, loves Pokemon, loves Lord of the Rings. Like that stuff isn't very common in this Cavs locker room other than him. So I would say that makes him stick out, but authentic would be the real one, but ethical for obvious reasons.
Non-GMO, free range, organic. Yeah, absolutely. That I can't remember what award it got, but it got an award. I think it was Laugh of the Week, but I don't remember which one. I devoted as much time as I could to that because it I can't, as the guy that's the nerd out Cavs podcast, the guy who has had a nerd podcast outside of sports, I can't enjoy Jarrett Allen probably more than I do. Aside from maybe our guy Bob, who literally named a podcast after him. So maybe I'm second on the list. I don't know. Do the players ever at least let you know that they've seen one of the edits that you've put together, or like have you interacted with them about something that they may have seen or that you did in one of those edits?
Was that question pun intended, first of all?
Uh no,
Let
it
them know.
wasn't.
Let them know. But on a serious note, I don't know how aware they are or how much they watch them. I know that if they see me in the locker room recording, I have had a couple of deadpans straight at my camera. I think we'll probably get into the funniest supercut of all, but one of the times Darius looked directly into my phone, pointing his finger and just kind of smiling and knowing like they started to notice actually when I was interviewing George Niang. It was just one on one in the corner where his locker is, um, right by the door, and Darius walked by and noticed that I had my tripod out, and George is like, "That's a big stick." So they know that I'm there for the video. I don't do as many of the articles, and I think in the way that I try to word my questions and stuff, it can be a little stumbly. I mean, I sometimes go over on my question length because I can't stop talking and try to get the best kind of version out of the player. But I would say, yeah, they're pretty aware. They're pretty aware of what I do. I don't know if they consume it though, if that's fair.
That's fair. One word to describe Max Struess.
That was the hardest one I would think of the guys you sent me. Uh, One word might not be enough because he is a guy who is. I'll just say competitive. We'll go competitive. Um, he has a dry humor about him. He's got a little bit of smartass in him too, which it can be fun in the Cavs locker room because he will just kind of have these like zingers that are not as obvious as a lot of some of the stuff that's said. And I think with this locker room in particular, there are just so many different types of personalities in it that I think it's just like one big happy family to where not everyone's the same at all, but they all get along and understand each other and they've been together now. So it's just like they know how to push each other's buttons in a fun way.
I'm glad that that was your answer because it leads directly into where I kind of wanted to take the this next part of the conversation, and that's I, as I talked to you before we hit record, and just letting everybody else know, the most excited I am about this conversation is that you have access to these guys in a way that the vast majority of us who consume sports never will, and kind of only wish that we did. For our favorite athletes to you actually get to know them, and you get to see them when things are going well, when they're maybe not going so well. You have a unique perspective to take us into the locker room. And the first thing that I really want to know is, from the outside looking in, it seems like this team is having maybe the most fun I've ever seen out of a professional team together. And the vibes seem like they are on an incredibly just a wavelength that is almost that I almost can't even put into words because I'm not an accomplished writer. You know, is it as awesome as it seems to us that are from the outside looking in? Are the vibes as high as they seem to be?
It's been very fun to go to that stadium and knowing after the games because most of the games have been wins. Going into that locker room that you're just gonna hear just absolute nonsense. And it's hysterical, it's upbeat, and you don't know where it's coming from sometimes, but they are so fun loving and grateful for each other and enjoy each other's company that yeah, I'd say like after every game, they're just joyous. They're joyous in there. And there's a there's a time when they get serious, and then there's a time when, you know, they blow out Charlotte and they're just, coming out there and sounding like Isaac Okoro singing holiday songs, and Darius and Donovan aren't leaving each other alone in their particular interviews. Like Tristan's shouting in the background as interviews are going on, trying to vie them for the All-Star game. You just never know what you're going to get in there. And I think that's the fun about it. I would definitely say this is the most fun locker room I've been a part of. And I was there covering the 2016 championship team. That locker room was fun, but there's no way that some of the shenanigans that go on in the Cavs locker room just that you guys don't see happen on that team. They're a little bit younger than them too. I think that also plays a part in it. Even though they do have Tristan on the other side, and Tristan was a part of that locker room in the championship team.
He was the young
There's
one then.
just the young one. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's got to be Jalen. Jalen Tyson, DG. Even though he's very soft spoken, he can get some in there. He tries to be serious, and then Donovan will egg him on, and then vice versa. I would say Jalen's probably the most funniest, I would say. Low key, Isaac Okoro too, but he's very subtle about his humor, which makes it funny too. Um, there's not one person in that locker room I can pick out that isn't like a part of all this, and that's what the other thing too is like. You see how they all interact with each other. No one's ever isolated or just getting out of there, so to speak. Like everyone's connected.
What do you attribute that to?
I think it's because they've been together for so long. The majority of them, at least 2 to 3 years. Some of the guys, 3, 4, 5 years, and they've learned how to play with each other. But they've also spent the most time with each other. You could look at even last year going to Paris, even when JB Bickerstaff was coaching. That's a long trip together. You think about the
Yeah.
long road trips they've taken over the last 2, 3 years and having to spend time with each other, but also just bonding over that and going to restaurants, going to New Year's parties, going to different occasions. I don't know. That I think helps a lot. And they genuinely, like I said, they love each other, man. They're just the best of friends, and you can see it on their Instagram posts, and you see that too when you look at how early they start training camp now the last couple of years, and how there are player organized workouts, and like that stuff translates clearly onto the floor. And as I told somebody else, like Kenny's come in and yes, he's accentuated their strengths. He's just kind of got the potions in the lab working like a mad scientist right now. And those guys, the reason that they were in the playoffs the last couple of years, they're taking step by step, obviously, but it's just kind of the perfect storm when it comes to that, plus the new coaching staff and philosophy.
One word to describe Darius Garland.
Driven, driven. I think a lot of his season this year is about kind of proving everybody wrong about last year after coming back from awful jaw injury to where he had to have it wired shut, and then he suffers personal loss, and then comes back, he's down 15 something pounds, not playing like himself, mentally not in the right headspace. Every single time we talk to him this year, he just says, I'm playing with a clear head, clear mind, I'm having fun again. And you can clearly see on the court that he's having fun again, but you could also see on the court that he's just tremendously developed, and Kenny's putting him in positions to succeed, whether that's telling him to shoot a lot more threes or getting into the paint, and the way that Darius is not turning the ball over, and how they've really talked to him about probe dribbling and kind of using that Steve Nash type of flow to make sure that he's not getting into crowds, but he's also looking for the best reads possible in a set. He's just so much more clear-minded, clear, focused, and it's really helped this team. And I think you could argue that he's been the best player of the team this year.
I've often described watching him as things like um, pure basketball joy, and that's about the only thing that I can't think of a more encapsulating way of talking about any basketball player, going back to the guy that got me into basketball in the first place. I have a shrine that you can't see over here to Allen Iverson. Like, just this it he doesn't play like AI, but I feel the joy that I felt as a kid watching AI when I watched Darius Garland play.
And you can see the kind of pep in his step too this year. When he turns the corner, I don't know how many guys have the shiftiness that Darius has and the ability to change speeds and angles. And my favorite play that he does is always when he turns the corner on a 1-5 pick and roll, and Jared Allen is rolling for a lob, or Evan Mobley is rolling for a lob, and you don't know whether Darius is going to float it off high glass. You don't know if he's going to pull up for a midi, or if he's going to keep going or stop on a dime. He has so many options off that. It's almost like a QB wrap in football. Like, that is so hard to react to as a defender. And when you're as slippery and you're as agile as Darius is, that's laterally and also just straightforward speed. You're going to have a hard time freaking stopping that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been pretty incredible. I've got we could go all day about Darius Garland. We probably should not. I did ask you ahead of time on this one because I wanted you to definitely have time to prepare and vet out what you might be willing or unwilling to share. But what is the funniest story from the Cavs locker room that you are actually allowed to tell us?
See, that's a good question because you hear all sorts of stuff being said. Um, what I'm allowed to say, I would say, if that super cut before the holidays probably was the top. Like just hearing these guys go back and forth. Like this was particularly Darius and Donovan. um, you know, sharing about how Donovan's got a separate private jet and Darius is, talking too soft, like enunciate. There was another one where DG was talking about how Donovan um, doesn't do his own laundry, but Donovan was like, I was doing my own laundry. Like Isaac Okoro broke out in a song after a win. Like I don't know how many stories. That's a really good question because there is stuff being talked about in the background of a lot of these videos because the locker room doesn't just stop because someone's getting interviewed. It's actually the opposite. People try to mess with them. They try to throw them off and everyone starts laughing and stuff like that. So it does take quite a bit of concentration on these guys' parts. And Donovan actually has done a good job of that as of late. Um, Stories wise though, yeah, that I can share probably not too much to be honest. And that probably segues into something else that you're curious about.
Probably. First, one word to describe Evan Mobley.
Who? Mm-mm-mm. Maturing, maturing. I think personally, and on the floor, I think you see both of it. I covered one of Evan's charity events the other day. I shouldn't say the other day. We're about a month. That's a month ago now. Where he was giving out Target gift cards to
What is time?
foster children, which was, really awesome event to be a part of. It was really cool to just cover the Cavs giving back around holiday season too. Really cool, talking about how much they love Christmas and stuff. But Evan was there, and this was his first event on his own, like with his Adidas team. This was not a Cavs event per se. So like he's kind of grown up like in outreaching and speaking out, and I think if you look at inside the locker room this year, he's kind of been more apt to talking and to not be as reserved as he's been with us at least in the past.
It does seem
Evan,
quiet, soft spoken.
yes, yeah. Well, Darius is also soft spoken. It's just kind of how they talk. But Evan, in particular, with us, has been a lot more vocal and not so like looking down while he's talking, like he's looking at us. He's. We gotta also remember, man, like 23 years old, 24 years old. Like these guys are not old, and they're still
Yeah.
not even close to their prime yet. So like they personally, not everyone's the same.
Yeah.
I think Evan's grown as a vocal leader on the court. I think we could talk up and down about how much he's developed as a player this year. But I'd
I
say,
literally did a whole like shrine to Evan Mobley with Tony Pesta a couple weeks
yeah,
ago, where it was
yeah.
just all we did was talk about the Evan Mobley leap for I don't know, like an hour.
So I think he's taking that leap on the court in addition to how much more pointed and social he's been with us. And he's always been like that with his teammates. Like the last couple of years, like the Evan you'd see on camera talking about a game is not the same Evan Mobley that you would see off the camera, who would be on trips with the guys and have a bunch of fun and stuff like that. Like he's gotten that side more now that he's growing more comfortable in locker room interview settings, if that makes sense.
Sure. Do you ever witness stuff that you're just not allowed to share? And like, how does that dynamic work?
There is sometimes like this isn't even in the locker room, but like Kenny will like start off a press conference talking about something, and he's like, "Yeah, make sure that's not on video" or something like that. Like, which it's funny for us to like see because that kind of gives us a little bit more of a look into Kenny. But with like the players and stuff, same thing. Like there's specific periods when you're allowed to share what you're recording. Like there might be a zinger at the beginning, maybe someone swears. Got to make sure that something. If they swear in the answer, that's fine. Like that's whatever. But like if something's being said before an interview starts or after an interview starts, like there is an understanding of what you can and cannot publish. I would say you do hear stuff being said in the locker room. Like every NBA team, they talk about the opponents. Where like this is not something new. There's stuff that I've heard that like, uh, but you obviously can't say anything about that because that just causes everything to go in a tizzy, and then you lose your trust with the organization and with people who grant you access. Like, and it's a big no-no as a journalist too. So you just have to understand what can be and can't be shared. Like if they're talking about Notre Dame, Ohio State in the locker room, that's fine. Like you're not going to get in trouble for sharing that someone is rooting for another team. Or we know that Donovan Mitchell loves the Mets multiple times throughout the playoffs this year. There were times where the locker room wouldn't open up for 20 minutes because Donovan was watching a Mets game in there. So like that stuff, that's not off limits, but you should know subjectively what is and isn't off limits, which is why I feel like as you grow trustworthy in the organization, they know what you can and cannot say. And I feel like I've gotten a good idea of the stuff that I can and cannot put in there too.
One word to describe Ty Jerome.
Catalyst. That
Hmm.
one's pretty easy for me. Um, this is from an encore perspective, but I just think the game changes when he comes in. He's a ball handler that the Cavs have not had. Unfortunately, only had for 2 games last year. I think he really would have helped in the playoffs. Just take the pressure off of Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, whoever's handling the ball. Karras handled it a lot. I know Max has had a few possessions where he comes and brings it up or is a primary playmaker. I think that Ty is perfect as that third playmaker that can be your primary playmaker, if that makes sense. Like we've seen lineups where DG and Donovan have been in with Ty Jerome. We've seen Donovan with Ty. We've seen Darius with Ty. I think there's a trust there that Ty is gonna bend a defense. He's gonna be able to swing the ball. He's gonna be able to play make in the pocket, and he's gonna be able to shoot the ball. And he's not afraid to touch the paint. And I think that having a natural guard like that really helps out the Cavs backcourt. And it helps by minutes too, which is really important. In the locker room, Ty is Ty. I don't think that he has any kind of um, like discernible. Some guys are like more like outspoken and stuff like that. Ty's chill. He's a chill guy. How about that? Like he's a chill guy, and I think he's actually posted that on his Instagram before too. He is. He's a very chill guy, and he messes around sometimes with DG because his locker room is right next to DG's, so he's kind of given Darius some fun moments in his interviews too, particularly with the All Star stuff or when Darius was going at it with LaMelo Ball. That was a good supercut that I did in the Charlotte game. So yeah, I would say he's a catalyst on the court and he's a chill guy. And chill guy's 2 words, but we're holding to that.
Hey, hyphen is fine. Yeah, Ty seems to have this level of confidence, and he's the guy that there were two absolutely shocking revelations for me coming out of last season. One was Isaac Okoro's shooting ability up until the shoulder injury. It blew my mind. Like not just the fact that he was shooting a decent percentage, but just the way that the types of threes that he was taking. and even doing some playmaking out of the short roll and stuff like that that I'd just literally never seen him do. And the confidence that he was shooting above the break threes on the move. In what world does Isaac Okoro shoot above the break threes on the move? Like that blew my mind. The other thing that blew my mind was Ty Jerome. And I don't think I need to add anything to that analysis because you know what I mean when I say it's just Ty Jerome. Like I when we were coming into the season and we were seeing some reports of like, just that he was going to be locking up that third guard spot in the rotation. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, what? How? Why? Like, this guy's barely been a rotation player ever in his career. What could he possibly be doing? And I think he has answered every question and about 100 more that I didn't even know to ask. And I love the fact that you say he's chill.
MVP of September was what Kobe Altman and Kenny Atkinson were saying, and everybody was laughing. They were having a ball. And then he starts the season out the way he does and has just been damn consistent. And,
Yeah.
somebody mentioned too, I think it was someone that I was interacting with on X. I can't remember, but it's a really good point to where Jerome is like Ricky Rubio in a sense, like what they were missing without Ricky being a playmaker, being someone that touches the paint, being someone who pushes the pace. I think that's a really good comp. And Ty Jerome's 6'5". That's the big difference.
At least the elements or the change of pace that Ricky brought,
Sure.
Ty does that in his own way.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah. He's been he's blown my mind, and I've been nothing but just shocked, awed, and in pure bliss about it. I am perfectly fine being blissfully ignorant in these matters.
And
Um
defensively too,
yeah,
when he's poking stuff from behind and
yeah,
he's kind of got more length, he's willing to put a body on guys too. I like it's both ends for sure.
yeah, yeah, for sure. We have reached a point of the episode where I need to remind you that this is a brand new show and you could help out a lot if all you do is click the little follow button in your podcast app that you're using right now or subscribe button on YouTube. And if you do, you won't miss any of the fun games like the one that we're about to play right now. Spin, you are around these guys all the time. We've established the fact that you know their personalities. You see them in a way that we don't. And this is the podcast for silly made up awards and shenanigans. So, what I thought we could do is turn this into a bit of a superlative segment, like call it high school yearbook style. I'm going to rattle off some most likely to blank, and you're going to give me the guy that comes to mind first. Does that
Okay,
sound like a plan?
let's do it.
Most likely to show up first.
That's either the oldest guy on the team or the youngest guy on the team in terms of experience. So I would say that's either Tristan Thompson or Jalen Tyson.
Does it change if it's a game or a practice?
No, no. I'll lean Jalen Tyson.
Who leaves last then?
Who leaves last? Jalen
Yeah.
Tyson.
All right. I'm I'm
Yep.
becoming more and more a fan of Jalen Tyson in this very moment. Uh,
You
who
should
is
be.
most who is most likely to make the absolute cringiest joke?
Oh man, that's a good one. It's gotta be a tie between George and Jarrett Allen.
Who's most
Jarrett,
likely? Oh, go ahead.
I'll say Jarrett's a bit of an instigator. George is definitely an instigator if he finds his moments. Uh, I know that I'm taking the easy way out here with the ties, but it's close.
Okay. Who is most likely to pull an elaborate prank on a teammate?
Oh my.
Shaving cream and the shampoo, that sort of nonsense.
I gotta go Donovan.
Oh,
I gotta
I
go Donovan.
that brings me joy actually to hear that. Uh, who is most likely to be the pickiest eater?
That gives me Jarrett vibes.
Okay, okay. Ethical eating, I like it. Who loves the camera the most?
I'm gonna say Donovan, and hopefully
Hmm.
he doesn't take that the wrong way.
I'd say the chances are slim that Donovan Mitchell is a regular
He's
listener
always
to
got
this podcast.
he's always making sure that he's got his apparel on before he gets on camera and whatnot. Yeah, I would go with Don.
Who's most likely to read a book in the locker room?
Jared Allen.
That one was I don't know if you saw it. They made a big deal out of it. I don't even remember who the guy was, but it's kind of made its way around that there's a receiver that reads a book on the bench between every drive, and that's what I was envisioning. But nobody's actually pulling out a book on the bench of an NBA game.
AJ Brown and the Eagles. Yeah, I think I saw that.
Who is most likely to drive the craziest, most extravagant vehicle?
Isaac.
Okay. Who is most likely to host an old school game night at their house?
Damn, that sounds like a Jarrett thing too.
Who is most likely to give the most elaborate gift to a teammate?
Elaborate rift.
Gift, like a
Gift.
yeah, like a a Rolex or a whatever we've heard of people in a different, much much different tax bracket are able to gift to their friends for whatever reason.
No DG.
Okay. Who's most likely to sneak out the back before you all get into the locker room?
Oh, who isn't? That it, the disappearing act. That's a good question. That's a
Mhm.
really good question. Ah, DG. DG. I think DG won.
Who's most likely to have the like weirdest, as in eats the most strange things type of diet?
These are not easy.
Well, it wasn't supposed to be. It was
Correct.
also supposed to be silly, so that's why you're not prepped. This is not basketball analysis happening at this very moment.
Oh, but it is. um,
This means
I'll
a lot for their 3-point percentage, okay?
uh, I'll go TT on that.
Okay. Okay. One word to describe Dean Wade.
Ooh, persistent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you not only get to have the chance to interact with the Cavs, listeners of this podcast's favorite team, to experience the vibes, more firsthand, but you also have a frame of reference because you don't just cover the Cavs. You also cover you profile other players around the league from other teams. You get to interact, outside of just the Cavs locker room. So when you say that vibes are super high and this team really gets along together, it's like a family and stuff like that. Like you have a frame of reference that the the 0.1% would have on that. What else are you working on right now that is not Cavs centric?
It never ends. I have a lot of stuff that I work on. I put out 3 long form features last week. Was really happy with all of them, especially for the way one Mark Williams of the Hornets, one of the rising young big men in this league that really has had a lot of injury trouble in the past and hasn't gotten playing time. He has taken advantage of every single minute since he's come back in December, and he's looked awesome. Talked to him one on one, got some really good insight to his journey overcoming those and getting the opportunity to do more things under Charles Lee. Charles gave me some really good stuff on him. So did Taj Gibson, someone who's been around the league for a while. So I really enjoyed that. The next day, I did a story on Ben Shepherd. We talked kind of about not playing the not so sexy role, which I think that is a really good message to a lot of newer talents coming into the NBA who might be used to being the guy, whether it's at their college or at a different team that they've played for, and having to kind of slim down that role, at least for the beginning of your career, because you're not going to be the man as soon as you get to the NBA. So I think that's a really good message. Talk to him about that, and also the rash of oblique injuries that have been happening in the NBA, because he had an oblique injury that kept him out about a month. So there was some interesting insight into that too. And then Friday, for Babcock Hoops, I released my book of a long form feature, NBA draft prospect and somebody who plays for the Sydney Kings over in the NBL, Alex Tui. It's this 6'9" forward who's only 20 years old, but playing on one of the best teams in Australia, and is far beyond the maturity of a lot of people his age. And that goes for on the court and off the court. Very leader oriented type of guy, but also not too serious. He has a really good way of finding a balance between those. Got some amazing, amazing insight from not just him. Like, I talked to the CEO of the Sydney Kings, Chris Pongrass, who used to be in the Memphis Grizzlies front office as basketball operations director. So he gave me some excellent stuff. Xavier Cooks, who is a teammate of Tui's, who also spent time with the Wizards a couple years ago, getting really insight on whether or not Tui is meant for the NBA. And spoiler alert, they were more than confident that he was ready for that level. So if you like features that are 4,000 words, please go read that one, because that one took a long time to put together. So that's just a little bit of an example into what I do outside of the Cavs. So in addition to what I do with the Cavs, shooting video and interacting with you guys on Twitter and Instagram, wherever you guys have any questions and stuff like that, I also do work for RG Media, which is where I did those two features that I just talked about with Mark Williams and Ben Shepherd. And Babcock Hoops draft profile features. I've gotten two of them. Tui, the one I just mentioned, and then at the beginning of the season, before it even started at Georgia, Asa Newell, who is just running roughshod over the SEC right now in college basketball. So yeah, pretty good start, I think, for that one. And it's been really fun to do the freelance kind of stuff with those two organizations. And I got another one on RG coming up with Ryan Dunn, who is a rookie on the Suns, who quite frankly took Bradley Beal's starting spot. So that's an interesting one too, but we didn't really talk about that. We just kind of more talked about the trust that he's earned from Phoenix to have him in that position. And yeah, if you can't tell, this was like a 3-minute answer. That's just a glimpse into my life, I would say.
I thought it was funny. The first thing that came to mind when you brought up Mark Williams is, and this just tells you, I have very, very little time to do this, but I actually found about a 15-minute window over the weekend, and I fired up good old NBA 2K, and I did a random find on who I was gonna rebuild in that moment, and I landed on the Charlotte Hornets, and the only player I kept on that roster was Mark Williams.
Fate.
One word to describe Karis LeVert.
Honest. I would say honest. And I'm glad that you brought up Vert, because, guys like Vert and even like Merrill, Craig's awesome. They are just not as boisterous. I don't know if boisterous is the right word, outgoing as the other guys in the locker room are. Karis has his moments. Like one time, like he was wearing this really, really nice chain, and Darius Garland started saying, he didn't start singing, he started saying the lyrics to Chain Hang Low by Jibbs. And
That's a pull.
Karis was, I know, right? I looked at DG after that and I said, do it, wobble to the flow. But
I'm actually shocked with how old he is.
that I
I
know.
remember when that song came out and how old I was. That
Correct.
math ain't mathing for me.
It's like, oh wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe even before that. It might have been like '06. But
It that's
yeah,
more in line. Yeah. And how old is DG again? When was he born? I this
23 or 24.
sh- ugh. Thank you. I
Yeah.
think I just felt another gray hair spurt out of my head. Appreciate it.
True that. Hey, that's always a running joke with myself, but the more juniors that I keep on seeing in college football and college basketball, like Peja Stojakovic's son, for example, like I'm just like, oh my gosh, just throw me off right now. Throw me out of a window. But no, I would say Karius, yeah, honest. He never minces words. He's he's also very chill, but yeah, he's not too talkative, I guess. Um, but it's not in a bad way at all. Yeah, I would just say honest. And when he talks, he's not giving you word salad. What he says, he means.
Thanks for playing my silly games. Plug anything that you want on your way out.
No problem, man. Appreciate you having me on, Zach. But I think I pretty much covered my bases. I am at Clee Cavs on SI. That is our Cavaliers on SI coverage, whether that's si.com/NBA/Cavaliers for written content that our team does. I pretty much do the work for the YouTube channel, which is Cleveland Cavaliers on SI. Please subscribe, like, rate, comment, all that stuff. You mentioned it earlier. I have a podcast, Courtside with Cavs on SI. We are also trying to make that thing grow, and that is really something that we're focusing on. We record them live on YouTube when we do. We do one a week. We're trying to get that up, but it just depends on everyone's schedule. My man Spencer German covers every team under the sun in Ohio, so it's really, really hard to get everything together sometimes. But I appreciate the work that he does as well to help that going. I am also on Twitter and Instagram at Spin Davies, as you said earlier. My other work, RG Media, so that's rg.org. You can find all of the features that I've written this year. You can find me at Babcock Hoops as well, babcockhoops.com. And I'm sure that I'll add even more to my plate as this goes on. Funny story, my time with, and I know that a lot of people have their opinions about this place, but my time with FanDuel Sports Network, aka the old Bally Sports Network, aka the old Fox Sports Ohio Network, is actually coming to an end at the end of this month. It's an end of the era for me. I've been doing digital work behind the scenes for that company for a long time. So just to give you a little look into it, it was one of my first jobs out of college. It was that and 92.3 The Fan. And I would work those two jobs, and that was my first kind of dip into sports work that actually, got you a pretty decent amount of pay. And nobody really knew, but behind the scenes for road games, for road Cavs games, and Guardians games, Reds games, sometimes Blues Jackets games, I was a digital production assistant for them for many years. So from 2015 to 2020, there's a gap when I had a full-time job from 2020 to 2023 with basketballnews.com. And then they let me come right back after I was let go by Basketball News. And I can't be more thankful to everybody there for letting me do my thing. And behind the scenes, yes, even at road Cavs games, I am still working Cavs games for a different company that no one knows about. So I'm just really, really grateful that I had that opportunity. And I'm excited for what's next for me. Otherwise, outside of the bunch of freelance stuff that I do, I've got some stuff in the works. So hopefully next time I come on, I can tell you all about that.
I can't wait, and you're welcome here anytime. If you made it to the end, please leave a like if you're watching on YouTube, or rate the show 5 stars in the podcast app that you're using right now. It would go an incredibly long way to showing the evil algorithm that we are actually worthy of being shown to people. Please. And now that the episode is actually over, go ahead and open your app store. Download the Sports Ethos app for one of the best blurb. I can never say the word ever, ever. One of the best blurb feeds in the business. It's got Cavs players in there. There's fantasy tools, a lot of updates. I actually just saw some app updates in there the other day. Go ahead and download that Sports Ethos app today. Again, thanks to Spin. I'm Zach. Thanks for nerding out, Cavs fans.